YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Rome 2 Emperor Edition Beta, and we are going to go into another online battle replay. This time it is Arverni versus Syracuse. I decided to bring a rush build this time, which personally I feel like is kind of risky, because I do think that archers and other units of skirmishers are more deadly in this patch. I could be wrong, but I do think that they are pretty deadly because their attack has been raised. Now yes, health and armor has been raised on infantry, but for whatever reason they seem to be able to kill your men fairly well. So I got an Arverni rush. My main line is 6 chosen swordsmen. I have a noble horse. I actually meant to put my general in this spear noble over here, but whatever. These units will help support the morale of my chosen sword band, and these flanking units, I've got 4 Celtic warriors, 2 on each flank. These are actually a really nice flanking unit. Not really high attack, but they have a good charge, and from the rear they can be quite punishing because of their high weapon damage. And then I've got 4 units of heavy horse, and 1 unit of light horse. So, and then, oh, yeah, so here's 2 of my heavy horse over here. So let's take a look at my opponent's army. His main line is Thorax Hoplites, which again I've heard a lot of people say, oh, they're OP in this patch. Again, they are very good units and they can hold for a long time, but I do not believe they're OP in this patch. They are strong, and if you charge them when they're in a hoplite wall, you're going to have a heck of a fight on your hands. But they can be beaten by swords. In any case, again, that's what I like about this patch, is it's all about the engagement. What was the width of your formation? How did you charge? Did you charge when you were supposed to? Did you charge into a defensive formation, or did you use something to help you get surrounding or outflanking? I think it plays a huge role, again. And again, a lot of people think micromanagement is dead in this patch. I couldn't disagree more. I think micromanagement is hugely alive in this patch, because how you use your units is going to make a big difference because the fight takes so long. So being able to micromanage and take advantage of gaps and get the right charges and protect your units is going to be key. So anyway, I'm going to bring up my rush, and here's what I'm hoping to do. I'm already taking advantage. Look, my opponent is more worried about my heavy horse than the light horse. So his guys are focused here, and then look, boom, light horse through the gap. So now he can't catch this light horse, and what I'm going to do is bring it back here, wait for the opportune moment, and make his guys here. You see these mercenary Samnite warriors. I want to make them have to protect their archers. This is going to give my swords the gaps I want. And again, I'm going to be looking for gaps all over the battlefield here. So I bring in these Celtic warriors to tie down his picked hoplites. These guys are a very expensive hoplite unit. They'll win the fight against my Celtic warriors, but this gives my guys the ability to keep them away from a cav fight temporarily. And yeah, look, see how I shot the gap there. I'm going to bring my chosen swordsman up to engage, and look, I'm already shooting a gap here. And then over here, he does get a charge against my heavy horse when I was micromanaging elsewhere, so that was a mistake on my part. But what I'm going to do is bring in infantry support, so I'll bring these guys into the cav fight, these guys up against his hoplites, and then I'm going to shoot over here with these guys. So yeah, you can see I get a nice charge against his thorax hoplites. These guys do not have expert charge defense. If they did, it would make this an even tougher battle, but again, look, light horse into his archers. So now a couple of his archer units are going to be unable to fire. And then look, I'm going to thread this gap right here with another one of my swordsmen. So this is exactly what I wanted. And again, you can see my heavy horse here. I started the fight, got my spear nobles in, got my Celtic warriors in, and then brought my heavy horse around from behind. So his mercenary Campanian cav gets fairly well neutralized, at least for the moment, because it can't get out, and it's going to have to grind that fight out, which is not really where they want to be. I used the unity of the tribes and the other special abilities that come with the Caesar and Gaul here, which help out the Arverni. Basically gives me a little more attack and morale for a period of time. And you can see that this is helping my swords. Right now the fight is fairly even between the Thorax Hoplites and my chosen swordsman, but they're about the same price. And over here, I got a rear charge with those swords that threaded that gap there, and you can see his Thorax Hoplites are getting killed pretty bad. Even with the general abilities in play, they get more defense. And then I'm using my own general for rear charges into these Samnite warriors, and also continuing to go after some of his skirmishers. Here I'm going to get a rear charge into these Thorax Hoplites. Again, it would be a very close fight if you just ground it out between the chosen swordsman and the Thorax Hoplites, but I don't want to let that happen. If you do make the mistake of using Frenzy against hoplites, I do think it is a mistake. It's going to make your men tired, and then the hoplites really will beat you down. But again, you can see I have his calves surrounded. There's no escape for him. And then I have his infantry surrounded at this point too. So my rush actually worked out really well this time. I was a little worried about it because I was worried if his skirmishers broke loose, or if I did something a little wrong, my guys would get chewed up pretty bad. You can see that the sword rush ended up working out pretty well here. I've got Chosen Swordsman coming around. I've got these Thorax Hoplites pinned down, and then again here comes the rear charge from my Chosen Swordsman. And so these guys are completely sandwiched by Chosen Swordsman now. And my general's still running rear charges here too. Those mercenary Samnite warriors are having a hard time against my Chosen Swordsman. This cav fight's starting to wrap down a little bit, and then my light horse is coming extremely handy here, 143 kills, and it's been chasing down enemy archers to keep them from having any effect. So when you take a rush, that is one of the biggest dangers to you, is enemy missile fire, and by bringing the light horse, you can see what happens. Here's again an overhead of what's going on. He did peel this mercenary companion cav away at a great loss, but it's too late now. His infantry's gone. So now that his infantry's gone, he does not have enough mercenary companion cav to turn the tide of the battle. Again, these guys are probably pretty darn good at a rear charge, but they're not going to be so great now fighting against infantry who are finished with another fight. But I mean, they're a heavy cav. They got in there and tried to do good on the charge, but it's just not going to go well for them. Yeah, now they're surrounded. And these Thorax mercenary Samnite warriors taking a long time to grind it out against my Celtic warriors, and that's not what my opponent wants because he paid more here. And some of you may be thinking, oh, is that really fair that cheap units can hold down the more expensive ones for so long? It kind of just depends on the engagement. Again, it's how you take the engagement, how you work it to your favor, and what type of engagement you choose to have. So does this mean that all elite armies are gone? I don't think so. We don't know that yet. But I do think it's going to be harder to bring very small all elite armies because you can't cause chain routes quite as easy. Those elite units take longer to grind through the other ones. Now they'll still do it, but it just takes longer. So in this case, the rush worked out pretty well. I've always liked trying to use rush builds. I don't like to use them every time. They are very vulnerable to certain types of counter builds, so you have to be careful. And again, I do think that skirmishers have become, I wouldn't say wildly powerful, not at all, but they're a force to be reckoned with in this patch. And if you see something different, you can let me know. But I mean, in this case, I managed to keep my opponent's archers from getting kills. But you saw the past battles where my archers or his archers both got quite a few kills, even against hoplites and other heavy units. So I think archers are very much alive. Chosen Swordsman looking like a sturdy unit for this patch. They've got really good charge. I think where a lot of people get worried about hoplites beating swords, there's a few circumstances that I want to make you aware of. There are some circumstances where hoplites will beat swords, but it's not like in just a general honest engagement. So let me explain what that is. If you take a look at hoplites, like right here, say this Carthaginian hoplite, their melee defense isn't particularly high, but they have 85 armor, 60 health, 55 morale. That's pretty good. But let's look at another faction, say for instance Athens, because they have the Thorax hoplites. These guys have even higher melee defense, 59, 90 armor, which is very good, and then 60 health, 65 base morale. These guys are good. That is a good unit for the price. If you take them into a sword unit, though, they'll lose the fight. So, for instance, look at this Principe. This Principe will beat that Thorax hoplite in a head-on engagement. Number one, the Principe has javelins. The hoplite does not. So it's going to get that javelin throw, which is going to take down some of their health. And then the Principe has much higher attack. It's got better weapon damage. Its melee defense is lower, and its armor is lower, but it will play out in the end. These guys will win. And you'll all be like, well, not if that hoplite's and hoplite phalanx. Well, that's a good point. If you can force people to charge into your hoplite phalanx, they will do very well. And I like this because it's somewhat, I mean, I don't know that it's actual real life because I've never seen a hoplite battle in real life, but I imagine it being easy for hoplites to defend because of their, their heavy shields and everything else, being able to use your spear from behind that wall of shields. So when you see that, it kind of makes sense. It probably wouldn't be real easy to take a short sword and bust your way through a wall of heavy shields with spears poking out at you. It wouldn't be real easy. So you don't want to charge a hoplite phalanx. How do you avoid this? Well, they can just go into phalanx. Well, that's when you use your swords and hurl all your javelins at them before you charge the hoplite phalanx, because a hoplite phalanx can't move very quickly. So that is the advantage of swords over hoplites. Javelins. And even still, typically the hoplites won't win. They'll just make it a very close fight. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Because swords don't die as easy to cavalry anymore, it doesn't really give hoplites a particularly large advantage. I think the only reason they get a bonus versus large anymore is because their attack stats and damage are lower, so they give them a bonus versus large so that the hoplites aren't actually more vulnerable to cav now. So I actually find the balance to be quite nice, and I'm enjoying it. Hoplites are a viable unit. Swords are still a viable unit. There are some elite hoplites that are very, very good. Shield bearers are very good. Royal Spartans are very good. And there are some sword units that those elite hoplites can beat. But again, some of the elite sword units are very good. Royal Peltist have excellent javelin range, and also they can back it up with really high attack. You have other units like a Lusitani Noble, also excellent javelin range, very high attack. Roman elite swords have great javelins and very high attack, plus high armor and morale. So, I mean, there's sword units definitely have something to offer as well. But yes, you do need to be careful of charging a hoplite phalanx with swords. But no, hoplites don't beat swords all the time on this patch. And someone told me they made a little bit of a hoplite hotfix, and maybe they did right when it released, but they certainly don't at this point. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed this. Hopefully you're learning something about the new patch. HeirofCarthage signing off for now.